Hey, this is Linz, and you are watching Support the Scene.
Hey, this is Jay from Support the Scene. I'm here with James. Now, for those who don't know you, can you explain a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm a freelance multi instrumentalist. I primarily play trombone, but I'm also a tuba player. I also sing. I play electric bass. I play the Swiss Alp horn, hence the
Yeah, I was gonna.
Alpine
Yeah,
background
yeah,
here.
yeah.
And I'm a composer and arranger and educator as well.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, what was the first instrument you picked up?
The first instrument, from a young age, I was a singer for sure.
Mm.
My parents are both classical musicians. Yeah, they actually named my middle name is Tamino, which is after a character from a Mozart opera,
Yeah,
right?
that's awesome.
And they had me singing in choirs and as a soloist from a very young age, and I'm really thankful for that because singing is the most I mean it's the most personal instrument you can have as a musician, right? If you can sing it, you can play it.
Yes, yes, that is the adage. And I find with singing, you really get to touch base on, as you said, like it's so personal, because no one sings the exact same way or puts some three people can have the exact same style of voice, but write completely different music. Three people can write the exact same style of music, but have completely different voices. Like I just love the
Exactly.
self-expression.
I mean, it's a part of you, and it's anytime I have a student or a fellow musician who's having trouble tapping into their own self-expression, that's the first place you go, is the voice. Yeah. Yeah.
So as you said, you are also an educator.
Hmm.
Um, how long have you been teaching music?
I mean, I've been teaching, private music lessons, in some capacity since I was in college, so probably 2005.
It definitely seems to be a little bit of a trope for musicians who are in the classical or the jazz to start teaching music, just to kind of get through college and to fund themselves through university. Was that just the case with you?
Maybe at first. I really think that teaching is something, you know, I don't have to do at this point, right?
Oh
I
yeah.
teach because I really enjoy teaching, and I think it's an important thing. I think educating people about the joy of making music just enriches our society a lot. And you know, it's a two-way street. I don't take on students who aren't willing to put in the effort to be really excellent at their craft, but I find it personally very rewarding. Yeah.
That's fantastic. When you're working with a younger student or someone who's just getting into music, and they're having like coming up to a roadblock when they're getting to the next step, what would be a piece of advice that you would give?
Well, the first thing is a lot of musicians get really fixated on the immediate result that they're getting in the practice room, and that could be problematic in some ways, because if the immediate result is something you're not really liking, it's easy to start holding back, and particularly as a wind instrumentalist, right? One thing I'm trying to get musicians to do, or students to do, is to just take a big breath and release it. That's what playing our instrument should feel like, right? So if you do that and you release it and you play a wrong note, a lot of times people get fixated. Oh, I made a mistake. We get so focused on I made a mistake. And the reality is, you take 10 musicians and you put them in a room, the person with the most skill is the one that's practiced the most and therefore made the most mistakes. So I would say the big thing is to make sure you're practicing in a way that is not risk adverse.
Mm,
Practicing in a way that is high risk, high reward. You take a big breath, or if you're a string player, you pluck through the string, or whatever you're doing, and you focus on feeling good. You know what I mean? Feeling good within yourself when you're playing. That's when you're going to make your best music.
I love that. I love that. um Now talking about your own music, what are some of the projects that you're up to around town?
Man, I am so lucky to be involved in so many of Vancouver's fantastic and diverse music scenes. One project I'm working on right now is I just got a commission from an orchestra, the West Coast Symphony, to write a 3 movement concerto for Swiss Alphorn in orchestra, which is being premiered. I just found out June 11th, downtown at Christchurch Cathedral. So that'll be a brand new work, about 10 minutes for Alphorn and orchestra.
That's
So,
amazing.
yeah. I've got a few things too. I've got the Hard Rubber Orchestra. If you don't know the Rubber Orchestra, it's this ensemble run by the great composer John Korsrud. We're doing a great show at the it's a King Crimson kind of tribute show. I want to say
Wow.
tribute, but tribute's maybe not the right
Yeah,
word.
yeah.
And that's happening. I want to make sure I got the date right. Yes. Okay. It's in the evening at the Rio Theater on Sunday, March 13th.
Wow.
Yeah, it's gonna be a huge band. Lots of energy, lots of creativity. Should be fun.
So definitely check that out.
Definitely.
And so from someone who's been in the scene for a long time, that has been doing a bunch of different things, what would you advise someone who wants to do music full time?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I'm just gonna be honest. I mean, it's never been a more difficult environment to be in business from sort of in music from the business side of things, right? I would say the biggest strength you should cultivate at this particular time is, well, number one, versatility, right? Being able to, again, knowing the language of music to such a degree, and educating yourself so that you can switch effortlessly between these different scenes. My career has very much been, sort of bouncing back and forth between these different scenes. One day I'm playing extra with the Vancouver Symphony. The next day I'm on the road with a polka band. The next day I'm playing with this fantastic Indian wedding band, the Vijay Brass Band, which if you've ever been to a Punjabi or a Hindu wedding in the Greater Vancouver area, you've probably seen us play. We do like Bollywood hits. Super fun band to play in. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
But being versatile, in my case, that takes the form of playing a lot of different brass instruments. The other thing is I think a lot of musicians get into this thing where they self-impose limitations or they pigeonhole themselves. They say, "Hey, look, I'm a jazz saxophone player, right? That's what I do. That's all I do. You get the blinders on." And really, when you've got a skill set like that, that's going to apply to so many different disciplines and idioms. And I think being open-minded and luck doesn't exist. It's the intersection of preparation and opportunity. And don't say no to opportunities.
And that's, I think, what really empowers a lot of musicians is taking the risk and trying the opportunities that come to your door, even if you might not think, oh, I don't really, I'm not ready for it, or oh, I don't know if it's something for me. Just the ability to go out and do it, and to to put your metal to the test, kind of thing, really helps you grow as a musician.
Absolutely.
Because I'm sure when you were in college, you weren't thinking to yourself, Bollywood brass music,
Right.
I don't know what my professors are talking about. All this is garbage. Bollywood brass music is where it's at.
Yeah, I mean, I was really lucky to have some professors at UVic is where I went.
Oh, I love it.
It's,
Yep.
yeah, great school. I had a great time there. Nothing but good things to say about that school and that. But some professors who were acknowledge, hey, look, you want to be a freelancer, you have to be very versatile. A couple Ian McDougall, the great Canadian jazz trombonist. I
Yep.
studied with him for 5 years, and then also Hugh Fraser, who passed recently, but both fantastic musicians who really taught me, and actually somebody as well, Jeremy Berkman, I should have a shout out, from the Vancouver Opera Orchestra, who really taught me, like, okay, be open-minded, be versatile. Life might take you in some different directions, and you're actually going to learn the most and have the most fun when you put yourself in situations where you're outside your comfort zone.
Exactly. A little personal anecdote, a little personal story was
Cool.
when I was I'd been playing classical piano for almost 6 to 8 years, and I'd conquered everything I thought I could conquer. And my mom wanted to put me in. I was in a high school band, and she was like, "Oh, there's a jazz camp at UBC. You should go check it out." I'm like, "Oh yeah, sounds good." So she's signing me up for jazz camp, and she's like, "Beginner, intermediate, or advanced," and she shouts upstairs, "It's like, you're like advanced, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I got it. Yeah, no problem." Haven't ever played a lick of jazz in my life. Show up um, to the advanced jazz course, which I didn't realize you take in UBC. You go to these summer camps, and you take beginner, intermediate, and then advanced. So it's like kind of everyone already knew each other because they've been and they kind of rose up the ranks over the years, and also they're all like great jazz musicians. So here's a pianist who I can sight read like no problem, which is my only saving grace. But of course, if as you know, probably playing some charts is very different than sight reading like a classical piece.
Very much.
um and I remember the first day I was in tears, uh feeling that I was inadequate, unable to do anything. And my professor was amazing and taught me basically from scratch how to read charts and to kind of put my thing. And I came out of it, stuck with it, and came out of it a much better musician than if I had given up that first day and gone home and never touched jazz again.
And not just a better jazz musician, but just a better musician overall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm curious, was that with Fred Stride?
Yeah, well, of course it was.
Okay, yeah. Shout out to my man Fred Stride.
Oh, he imbued to me some of my greatest lessons that I still remember to this day, uh, in not only the love of jazz and everything about it, but just the love of music. And he really took pity on me and showed me some great pieces of work outside of class time and things like that. I can't thank him enough. So
Fred's fantastic. Yeah, there's so much music in that guy. Yeah, I saw Fred for the first time in like 2 years the other night.
oh
We're doing
wow.
this this jazz sort of festival at the Shadbolt Center. And I was playing with the big band supporting Mike Ladon, the great
Mm,
organist from New York, killer band in the Groover Quartet. But Fred showed up at the warm up gig, and I hadn't seen that guy for ages. So great to see him.
that's amazing.
Yeah,
And as you were saying, um, being a part of all these different scenes, like what what drives you forward? Because I know there's smaller scenes than what most people would think. Um, can you tell me a little bit about your experiences dabbling in all these different scenes?
sure thing. Yeah, I mean, the first thing is that playing in so many different scenes, you become just absolutely humbled by the amount of talent there is in Vancouver, and the amount of great musical ideas that are happening. Yeah, it's a situation where we have a lot of different scenes, and they're I don't want to say they're all small, but they're all relatively small compared to a place like New York or even like or Toronto, right? um but being able to interact with musicians coming from so many different backgrounds, particularly musicians who are not maybe coming from a background where it's rooted in like Western European musical vocabulary, right? Maybe coming from playing in the Indian wedding band where it's everything's a very different rhythmic and harmonic and melodic vocabulary. You end up just learning so much. I have friends who, I speak a few languages, but not the one that they speak, but we can still communicate with each other through music. And there's a lot of understanding, I think, that can be built between communities. It's a very Canadian sort of thing when you think about it.
It really is, and it's one thing I here at Support the Scene, we really try hard is connecting all the pockets of different communities together. So then, because musicians love music, we're not bound by certain you can go, and I can be a metal head and still love going to the jazz fest or going and seeing the VSO, um, and then going and seeing a pop band or things like that. And I love meeting other musicians who will feel the same way, um, and being able to connect the scenes together, so we can build our audiences who also aren't our audiences are never just limited to listening to one genre. Most people love lots of things, and so being able to share our music with our fans, but then also encouraging them to go check out other music that we're a part of or that we know of that we think is cool, I think is such a great and essential thing for Vancouver and our music to really support each other. Um, because as you said, there's so many talented things going on out there. Whenever I see a group, I always halfway through whatever they're doing, I think to myself, man, I really wish I was on stage with them. I wonder I wonder if they ever need another bass player, or like, and then start imagining in my head and how I could work my way into this group because it's such a cool thing on what they're doing.
Well, and there's a lot of opportunity in that. I mean, part of it is, in Canada, but especially in Western Canada, because we have so much immigration, everybody just got here. There's so much coming from all over the world, and all these different cultures intersecting. Now that results in a couple of good things. Number one, it results in great music, right? I mean, you think about New Orleans at the turn of the 20th century
Mm.
when jazz
Oh,
sort of
yes.
percolated, just because there's so many different, cultural influences there. There's also a lot of very sad stories about that, just as there are here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, difficult circumstances for a lot of people, unfortunately. Um, but So great music can come out of that, and also great food. That's
Yes.
that's the big thing.
I think
Yeah,
someone said music thrives on strife,
yeah.
and grows in despair, I think was the finishing of it. And and wherever you track down all these great uh booms of music, you can link it back to the real stories of real people, um that make that music, and
Yeah.
people can hear it through the music, because it's not only is it um the person playing and creating it, but it's their world, who they're playing with, who the audience is listening to. Just the whole scene of it is captured a lot of times in great recordings, and then you can listen to it and you can almost think of it as such as a viewing bubble, and that you can see into uh when that record was made, and who played on it, and what their story was, and who especially what their story was when they were recording that. Because you can take great players and you can look at different recordings that they've done, and can sound completely different in different things, and grow and expand and shrink. And um so as audience and as musicians, we should always be doing more, not being afraid to keep making music and putting it out there for the world.
I really think we should have a sense of pride in this too. Is that right now we are creating Canadian music. I mean, if you said what is Canadian music, and you ask somebody around the globe, they wouldn't be able to tell you, because right now what's happening is we have all these different influences all over the globe, and we're in the process of creating this sort of Creole of styles, and there's so much cross fertilization happening in the local scene. I just think it's something that um, our our musicians should be a little more proud of. I think it's something that the fans of the music should be a little more aware of, and I think it's also something that our governments should be more aware of in terms of
Yes,
supporting.
yes, yes,
Um, yeah, and thankfully that my perception is that's getting a little better in recent years. I think the big thing in Vancouver is we need more venues.
yes.
You know, yeah,
It's getting tough, and the city's not making it any easier at this time.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
have a great idea that would make this easier. Oh, super great idea. In fact, perfect. A lot of cities have done this. You ready for this? Okay. City of Vancouver, I call on you to enact a law that states that you cannot serve alcohol on any premises, licensed establishment after 9 p.m. unless there's live music.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, not just live music, but properly compensated musicians,
Mhm.
right? Nothing against DJs, but I'm not talking about a DJ. I'm talking about a live band.
I agree, and I think one of the things is that a lot of times nowadays the bars don't share what they make with liquor sales off with bands,
Right.
and since they're taking all that money to to cover their rent and to cover what they do, we're expected to live off the door money or paid a certain amount by promoters, and it's I don't know, it's getting harder and harder to breathe as trying to make it or at least survive in doing music full time. And my hat goes off to you as a beacon of light, for an example, that it's possible and that people can not only do it but also be happy and creatively fulfilled with doing it.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a balance of creatively fulfilled, and for example, I mean, musicians who are who are making a full time living, right, through music, almost invariably, um, most of us are not, you know, artists full time in terms of what we do. A lot of what we do could maybe be better described as being like an artisan. Okay. And we take great pride in work. For example, I play in a lot of cover bands. I play for people's weddings. I take a lot of pride in that, like adding a lot of joy to people's lives. Am I playing my original music on those gigs? No, I'm playing, cool music by like Michael Jackson or Earth, Wind and Fire or Ariana Grande, whatever, right? But you know, uh, I'm really proud of being a musician and adding joy to people's lives regardless. Most musicians who are actually doing this for a living could probably describe a lot of what they do like that, you know? Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining and having a great conversation. We'd love to have you back and to keep
Wonderful.
digging your brain and talking about the scene. Where can people find you? Where's some links for people that want to check out the music that you're a part of?
Fantastic. Well, I have a website. You can check that out at phonosmusic.com, PHONOS music.com. I also have, a YouTube channel called Chops with Hops. I also do a little barbecuing, so there's some
I love
culinary
that.
adventures
Yeah.
on that as well. And yeah, where else can you find me? Oh, Bandcamp, of course, Bandcamp. All my original music is only distributed on the most ethical and fair uh, streaming and downloading music distribution platform I think that exists, which is Bandcamp. If you just put in Jim Hopson Bandcamp, you'll find several of my albums and singles, and some merchandise coming soon on that
It's
as well.
amazing.
Yeah, great way to support artists that you love is Bandcamp. Personally, that's the only way I buy music anymore. So
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
Anywho, thanks so much. This has been Jade with Support the Scene. If you want to check out all of our other videos, please hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, get notified when we drop even more stuff. Check out the rest of our channel. We got interviews, we got reviews, we got tips and tricks, and everything in between. Thanks again, James, for joining, and I hope you have a great day.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks for having me. Appreciate
Have
it.
a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. This is Support the Scene. Make sure to subscribe, hit the bell, follow, and share.